Well, after what I think we can describe as a pretty frustrating and infuriating year at Bayern Munich, we can now drift our attention away from the club we're managing and have a look at the 10-year bookmark. It's our 5 yearly stop off to see what's happening in the footballing world, what's happening with all of our former clubs in this head coach save, and to see if there's any big shocks when it comes to the football pyramids. Yes, hello, and welcome along to the 10-year bookmark from this FM24 Head Coach save with me, Daniel. We did one at the 5 year point, and now we are at 10 years, and it's been a remarkable 10 years as well. The first time we've ever reached an elite club within that time. Certainly the first occasion we've had what we think is a proper glitch with transfers, where we're literally selling players left, right, and centre with no one coming in. And the first team squad is thinner than ever. But we're not here to worry about Bayern for once today. We're going to look at our former clubs. We're going to look at what's been going on in the footballing world. We'll have a look through the English, Scottish and some of the pyramids we've been involved in during this career. And of course, we'll see how our career stacks up against previous years and against the 5 year mark. So if you're looking forward to all of that, please do put a thumbs up on the video. We know it's been disappointment for Bayern aside from regaining the Bundesliga this year. But let's start, as always, by having a look at our profile and our career over 10 years, because this has been, without doubt, the most successful head coach ever, which is probably why I've had more criticism in the comments when I was getting sacked in my first 2 or 3 jobs in FM19, when I was struggling my way through Scotland and some of the slightly lower ranked English clubs in FM21. No one was saying, oh, this is too easy, it's too unrealistic. The 1 year it goes well, of course people will be on your back, but let's see what my attributes are like now. 20 for discipline, people management, motivation. Knowledge is great because I've been across Japan, France and Germany. Why have I got no knowledge of Japan? That seems harsh. I spent over half of my career there. I was there about 5.5 years, wasn't I? Seems very unusual that the place I've spent most of my career, I have no football knowledge at all. That does seem odd. Either way, tactical, technical training were great. Not sure why. I've not done anything to work on it other than my coaching badges. I'm not sure why we're so bad at working with youngsters, but perhaps that's just because a lot of old players were coming in at most of the clubs we were at, particularly over in Japan. For now, though, let's have a look through at our overall record, because it has been a pretty interesting one for us. If we have a look at our history overview, we have had 512 career games, of which we've won 300. We've only lost 127, which is not bad when you consider that we had one pretty tough year at Bournemouth and one fairly tough year in Japan as well. We've not been at many clubs that are expected to dominate. Obviously, we had that brilliant start with Gifu and the best director of football. Here, we've probably found the worst one, but we can live with that, can't we? We'll be doing an experiment to test the director of football here in a few weeks' time. If we have a look at the goals for and against overall, well, this club has certainly made up for it a bit, hasn't it? Because we've scored 168 at Bayern, which has taken our goal difference up, certainly taken our win percentage up. It's 58% overall in our career. We've won 2 cups, 3 leagues and 2 promotions. And that is probably the most successful we've ever had at a 10-year mark. To have been at an elite super club, to have had over 600 million in transfer values overall, to have 10 million in career earnings in the first decade is remarkable too. And the time spent on holiday, just the 4 days at the start trying to get our first job. No sackings. Not had a sacking this year, which makes a big difference too. Let's have a look at the job history then, because we are at the 6th club of our career. Only one of them in England this time, a very different route. 3 Japanese clubs, including that brilliant stint with Gifu at the start. Then Bournemouth, Olympique Marseille and FC Bayern Munich. Now let's start in order by having a look at our first club, Gifu, who we took over at the bottom of the J3 League, saved them first season, then won back-to-back titles thanks to Hiroki Izumi's unbelievable work in the market, then left them for Yokohama FC. But let's see how they're getting on now. They're 14th in the second tier. It's all gone wrong again. Someone go back and save Gifu. Their manager is a youngster, 34-year-old, who's not great. I can't imagine I'll have any names we recognise now. Any players that are still there from 5 years ago? Obviously, you can rule out the younger ones, can't you? But just looking to see if there are any names I recognise, and I don't think there are. I think sadly, every player has now moved on from Gifu, which is probably part of the struggle that they're having. That Cantadoy, I feel like that name was about. Was he there before? No, he wasn't. I'm imagining that as well. So no players that we had when we were at Gifu remain. Any staff that I recognise? Just something to hang on to from the club that might have been there with us? No. And while we're here, we've got to look to see what happened to Hiroki Izumi, haven't we? He was struggling to get a job at the 5-year mark. Might have even retired by now. And sadly, there is our answer. For a man who masterminded 2 successive promotions and wonderful transfer work with FC Gifu, Hiroki Izumi left, didn't get another job, and retired several years later. That is possibly the saddest story of this save, because he was an absolute hero for me and was a huge part of the success I've had in this career. So Gifu back down in the 2nd tier. It did take them a few years, so we left in 26. They finished 13th, then 15th, then 11th, and then down, and it's gradually gone back to worse and worse ever since. Their key player, still a pretty good one, but an experienced Belgian, very much sticking with the older players approach. That's a shame to see. I really liked managing Gifu. Let's look at our second club, Yokohama FC, where we did pretty well, to be fair. They were a club that we expected to do more with, but in the end, that possibility didn't come about. We have a look at how they've gone since. They're 19th at the minute. So they've gradually drifted down the league over a number of years, and they're now at real risk of going down this year. They're second bottom, 3 points from safety. How far were Gifu from safety in their league? Only 4 points. It's not great, is it? Bit of a spoiler for our next club there as well, who are still in 6th. But if we have a look at their squad, is there anyone that we recognise here? Shinichi Chiba, he was about when we were at the club. He's been here since he started his career. Really good young defender when we were about, and he's become a very good one. The goalkeeper was there as well, definitely. He was the one we had to play for a few games because there was no one else about. Seems to be the case. Oh, and Diogenes, the first choice keeper, he was there as well. He was signed while we were at the club, wasn't he? Very good keeper. So there's a lot more familiarity here. Just going further down, see if there's any more. I think there's only one, but it's a very big name. It's Marwan Balouk, who was the star foreign player when we joined the club, a centre midfielder with real quality. Came in from Schalke on loan, if you remember. They kept him permanently, and he's become a very important player for them, albeit not with the same record since, but was a good footballer. I remember him well. So not quite gone as well for Yokohama FC. Their manager now, another fairly young one, but not great working with young players and hasn't achieved much there. They're second bottom. And then Kashima Antlers, the third side we managed, where we didn't win anything. We bottled a title chance. We lost in an Asian Cup final against a big Saudi side. Who's their manager? Well, I can see their vice captain is a player we had before. Their manager's rated a little better, but they're still only 6th in the league. Have they progressed since we took charge of them? So we took charge here, 5th and 4th. No, 1 season in 3rd, 1 last year as well. And their star players are players who were academy stars when we were here. So if we have a look at their squad, there's a lot more familiarity. They've got Takuya Aguchi as the goalkeeper still, who's developed into a pretty good one, it must be said. Kazadenthal at the back, we remember. He's become pretty much a star for them. We've also got Rui Leader, who was about when we were there as a youngster. Kenta Ueno was definitely about when we were there. In fact, no, he wasn't. He was at Yokohama and got sold while we were there. So we recognise him from another club. In midfield, Fujio Matoma, yep. I remember him getting retrained as a right wing back when we were desperate. Kento Ogawa, decent midfielder. Hashimoto, yeah, they're all there. Ryotaro Araki, what a player he was. Was always a star for the team. Takuya Yasuda, mentally just an absolute superstar. Now a Japanese international. And up front, I think that's where the biggest change has been. Looks like all of the players have moved on there. But a real bit of that core of the side and a lot of the homegrown players have stayed. That's lovely to see. They've not really pushed on to the next level or become that top side. Then we take our move over to home. We went to England. We went to manage Bournemouth. And Mike Phelan, in complete contrast to what we've had here at Bayern, was the best director of football that you could possibly imagine at a good club. He let us win an FA Cup and a League Cup by bringing in brilliant players. We saw that Facundo Fernandez had moved on to Liverpool. We just played him in the Club World Cup. Their manager now is Burim Kekeli, who is okay. They finished 14th in the Premier League on 44 points. They've still got Leonardo and Karnazeki as skipper and vice. We have a look at the general. They've just sort of been mid-table plodders. They've not reached the heights of 9th again, but 11th and 14th, very respectable finishes. Have they won anything else? Because that was the biggest thing we did for them. We won an FA Cup. We got them a Carabao Cup. Runner-up in the Europa League we had. They were also runners-up in the FA Cup the following year. So they kept themselves pushing in those cup competitions. But nothing since then, unfortunately. Oh, no, they did. They won the Conference League. Oh, wow. Bournemouth pushed on. Fair play to them. Let's have a look at the players in the squad. I would imagine it's still fairly similar because, you know, we've not really been away for that long, a couple of years. Yeah, De Joffrey, Nelson's there. Sakati wasn't about. He came in. We had him in our Twitch save, though. Steele and Karnazeki, the two keepers. Max Aarons, Josh Doig, George Smith. Yeah, Georgi. Burns still there. Did he ever make it? Just never improved. What a waste of a wonder kid. Alex Scott in the midfield. Ferret Aslan still there. Surprised he never got a big move. Ferret Aslan, he was a superstar for us. Then at the front, Leonardo still there. Van der Lack out on loan. Most of the other attacking players have changed, though. They've now got an English left winger who's a brilliant model citizen. Looks like they found a good replacement for Fernandez. But Bournemouth still doing very well without us. Not quite as strong as we did, though. Then Olympique Marseille, a one-year wonder for us. We lost out on that trophy in the French Cup final, but they've gone backwards without us. They finished 6th this year, and it was our worry and the reason we left. They had no transfer budget. They were going to have Champions League football, and they were losing a couple of players. They did end up signing a couple, but they were all sort of cheap squad players, a couple for the future, a couple that were sort of squad player level fixes. But then if you look at the players that went out, they let Guindo go, Manuel go, Gunnarsson, the goalkeeper. A lot of players that would have been frustrating to us. So wasn't an ideal summer for them in the end. They did lose a couple of others too, but they finished in 6th. They've still got a similar squad. I'm not sure they're a squad we could have taken to the next level though. So in the end, I think we've maybe made the right decision here. There are a couple of the young players they've brought in. Oh no. Look at the young player they've brought in there. That's what Bayern should have been going for. That's what our director of football should have been doing. But instead, at Bayern Munich, we have had the freak horror show, haven't we? I don't know if it's something to do with the January updates. It did coincide. I don't know if it's just this club. We'll find out in a future experiment. But 14 senior players sold. And on the additions front, 1 goalkeeper, 1 outfield player. Left with a senior squad of 13 to 14 players. Just remarkable for a top-level club. But we did win a Bundesliga. And we did add to the trophy cabinet, which is great. Have a little look at the Hall of Fame, see where we sit. I'm guessing not that high. We are below the top 20 with 399 points. But still, we've got trophies in the cabinet, which is great. With that out of the way at Bayern Munich, we need to go and have a look at some of the league pyramids, see if there's any big shocks. Want to have a look for England and Scotland. We'll look at some of the ones we've managed into. But crucially, in the Southend save, we found that after 10 years, some of the bigger stories had corrected themselves and there maybe weren't that many huge ones about. Not too many headlines of teams moving 2 or 3 divisions, shock cup wins, etc. So we'll see if this universe is any different. We're going to go through and start with the English Premier Division and work our way through the EFL. Well, a slight surprise in the Premier League in that Arsenal were dominant in the early years, which we saw. City got a few back-to-back, but now Liverpool and United, the 2 more dominant forces. Of course, by contrast, at the 10-year mark in the Southend save, Liverpool had been in administration and started to struggle, so a little bit different for them in this one. Manchester United, though, first title for them in 20 years after Alex Ferguson left, has just come in. The bottom end, Stoke, Sunderland, Fulham. No one more than a division out, though, so no huge shock teams in the Premier Division. In the Championship, Cardiff have just returned to the Prem with a playoff final win. They join Burnley and Palace, 2 clubs that start in the top tier. At the bottom, Salford, who were in League 2. Barnsley and administration. It's a lot more common this year, isn't it? Plymouth down as well. You've got Wrexham in there who have come up from League 2. And to be fair, in most saves, Reading seems to recover pretty well. They're now up in 7th in the Championship. Into League 1, we have got Oldham winning it. Now there's a story. Oldham, 3 promotions. Where have you come from? They have been promoted from the National League in Season 3. Then 5 seasons in League 2, got up via the playoffs in 6th last year, and have won back-to-back playoffs to get to the championship. Will Andy Appan is the skipper, a former head coach hero from a couple of years ago with Dover. There's a story we can get behind. Birmingham returning, they'll be looking to do that in real life next year. Millwall as well. Barnet and Rochdale are in there. They both started in non-league. There is a lot more turnover of clubs here. A lot more teams flying up the divisions. Peterborough went down with 56 points. Preston finished bottom of League One. They're going down twice. And Luton from the Premier League are 19th in League One here. They've been in administration now, I think, have they not? Yeah, and they've not really recovered from it either. So they're in a little bit of a mess. David Platt is manager, but not that one. I got excited there briefly for a minute. There can't be any originals about there, surely. Having a look. No, there aren't. So a little bit of a disappointing one from a Luton point of view, but the story's there. Barnet, Rochdale and Oldham all in the League One playoffs, all vying for a third promotion of the save. Oldham the ones to pull it off. Preston going down to League Two, where they will be joining QPR, who lost to Aldershot in the playoff final. Chester have got a triple promotion as well. They've just won promotion to League One, starting in the National League North. Bromley are in there with QPR in the playoffs. They've had a double relegation, QPR. The bottom end, Bradford, have just fallen out of the Football League. They're a Southend, 21st in League Two. Billericay have come from the non-playable leagues to League Two. 3 promotions for them. Another former head coach hero, Riley Harbottle, about in that one. There are a lot of big stories here. This couldn't be more different to the Southend save. Loads of teams that have changed by 3 divisions in the course of 10 years. Not what I was expecting to see after that one. Maybe that explains some of the bonkers things going on here. Dagenham and Redbridge have got promoted from non-league thanks to a super scoring striker. They are joined by Woking, who won the division. Wickham are in there, down from League One. Bury are back up in the National League. Anyone else of shocking note? Fleetwood from League One, Cheltenham from League One, Port Vale from League One. But at the bottom end of the table, in terms of relegation, no massive shocks. And then if we go down to the north and south, in the north, Scunthorpe finally up again. They and Hereford up to the National League. A few teams from the non-playable leagues. Northampton, the curse is still real. 3 relegations for them. At National League North side now, still professional. They must be hemorrhaging money. They came down 2 years ago, finished in 8th this time, and their best player is not very good at all. So that is a worrying sign for Northampton Town. Let's go further down the division. No massive shocks at the bottom. Morecambe Football League side. MK Dons in the north. Oh, they can't still be at Stadium MK, surely. Surely not. We've got to see this. 30,000 seater, National League North. MK Dons, Northampton, Morecambe, Harrogate. 4 EFL sides there together. That is an interesting one. Let's go down to the south. Sutton United from League Two, double relegation, but they're back up. Boreham Wood will be looking to do that in real life next year. We might be doing a save with them. We'll have to wait and see. Hemel Hempstead relegated out the playable leagues. Nowhere near as many shocks in the south. Sutton are the only club that start in the EFL. So in the north, there's a lot more going wrong. No doubt about that. Let's have a look at the cup competitions. We know Bournemouth won an FA Cup when we were there. Newcastle and Everton with one apiece, but otherwise largely the big boys, City, Arsenal and United sharing the rest. Carabao Cup, bit more spread out. Newcastle got one. Again, we did with Bournemouth. United this year won it. Liverpool, City, Newcastle. Couple of wins for Newcastle actually. 3 in the first 10 seasons. In the Community Shield, we're not going to worry about that. And in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, now otherwise known as the EFL Trophy, 3 under-21 sides. Not sure I'm a fan of that. AFC Wimbledon on penalties after a boring final this year. FA Trophy in non-league. Maidstone win it this year. Few familiar names about there. Boreham Wood got one as well. Lovely to see. With England out the way, let's move over to Scottish football. And it is the Cinch Premiership, isn't it? Let's see how it looks. Celtic have won all bar one of the titles since the start of the save. Rangers 27-28. But at the moment, it's not even that close, to be honest. 6 points, a fairly comfortable goal difference advantage. It's not looking good for Rangers at the moment. But Inverness and Dunfermline in the top half of the top tier. It's a bounce back and a half for a couple of them. Queen's Park in the top tier as well. A few surprises, but nothing humongous. We go and have a look at the Championship. Motherwell coming back up this year. Livingston battling at the top. Dundee United 8th in the Championship. They've had a little bit of a fall from grace there, haven't they? In League One, East Fife have stayed up. Dumbarton have not. Hamilton have been promoted as of Airdrieonians. Rafe not producing their heroics of previous years this time around. They're 5th. I think they might be in the top tier in the Southend save, so they're 2 divisions out from that. Spartans and Stranraer in League One. Partick Thistle flirting with relegation to the 4th tier. And then in League One, Edinburgh City won it. You've got a few of the familiar names. Have Celtic shared out the cup competitions a bit more? They've been the dominant force in the Scottish Cup, but Rangers have got a couple, Aberdeen and Hearts with 1 apiece. The Viaplay Cup, again, Celtic dominated it largely. 1 apiece at the start for Hearts, Rangers, Aberdeen, but Celtic for most of it since 5 out of 7. And then my favourite competition, the SPFL Trust Trophy. We've got a Northern Irish winner in Larne. We've got a Welsh winner in TNS. Aside from that, it has been all Scottish clubs. And 1 B team with Rangers as well. We don't want to be seeing that too often, do we? Motherwell do the double though, Scottish Champ and SPFL Trust Trophy. So Scottish football's looking interesting too. Let's have a quick look at the Champions League and the European competitions. We know that we went out of the Champions League early because unfortunately we didn't have the squad to compete. One of the surprises here, perhaps, we saw it at the 5-year mark, is that PSG were becoming a dominant force. They won 3 of the first 5 seasons, with City the other 2. They've added another one since, as have City, United, Liverpool and Real Madrid with 1 each. In the Europa League, we've got Antwerp won it this year. Where's that come from? I mean, it's been teams from all of the biggest nations normally. Liverpool, Lazio, Real Betis, Bayer Leverkusen, Leipzig. Manchester United, PSV may be a slight surprise in the modern era. Lazio, Newcastle and Antwerp. A Belgian side winning it. Daniel Ballard is captain. Have they gone for one of those experienced squads? I mean, only in certain areas. They've got Lunin in goal at 34, who's still a fabulous keeper. He's on 70 grand a week, so maybe they've run into money. I don't know. Can we have a look at their landmarks or important moments? They've got a stadium capacity increase there. They're winning the cup. They're winning the league a couple of times. Have they had... There we go. Tycoon takeover the first season. They had a Chinese tycoon and 9 years later, they've won themselves the Europa League. So it's worked out for them in a way, hasn't it? But Antwerp have got themselves a big trophy. Let's have a look at the Conference League. Bournemouth won it the year after we left. It had been heavily English dominated early on after that surprise Genk win in season 1, which we saw in a 5-year bookmark. Then Chelsea, Newcastle, Juve, Villa, followed by Spurs and Newcastle at the start, Stuttgart and Rennes either side of Bournemouth. And we missed out in a Europa League final to Lazio with Bournemouth, who had obviously won a couple of them as well. So no big surprises there as such. The UEFA Super Cup has generally been won by the side that's won the Champions League. We're not going to worry about all of the others as well. I do want to see the World Cup though, so let's go through to that. England did win one in 2026. We saw that last time, but it was the Netherlands in 2030. They always produce brilliant sides in FM, and they have got some genuinely super players. They had a couple of 16, 17-year-olds at the start of the game that are rated among the best in the world. For the younger players, they've got a few regens coming through, and they're a pretty good nick rather than being absolutely exceptional. If you look at one like that at Real Madrid, for example, that's going to be one of the best players in world football. So they're definitely producing superstars. The one just before that as well, Ibrahim Khadi, maybe one of the best left-backs in world football too. There's plenty of talent about. Let's have a look at the European Championships as well, where after back-to-back wins for France, they are defeated in the final by Belgium. So Antwerp won the Europa League, Belgium win the Euros. It is a good summer for Belgian football. Let's have a look at their star players. How many of them are youngsters coming through? Well, who's this guy, the 25-year-old? Thibaut de Gries? Wow, that is a proper winger. 5-star ability, Monaco superstar. Then we know about Dimitri Helson, who we're managing at Bayern, is a brilliant young left winger. Yanis Dumont, we know about from Marseille, is a very solid young keeper. They've got a centre-half at 23 worth 200 million. Georges Gesta. Blimey, we should have got a move to Monaco. Look at their team. No wonder we lost to them in the cup final. And then Alekos Karachialos is worth 250 million at 23. This Belgian side's ridiculous. Add to that, they've still got Vermeer and Lavia who are under 30. They've still got Doku who's only just 30 and Anana, Van der Voort, etc. That's a stunning football team that's well balanced as well. They are absolute superstars. Can we get the Nations League up as well to finish off? There it is, European International League. France have won it 3 times out of 4. England did get 1 on the board. For French football, let's be fair, despite that Belgian dominance seems to be in pretty good nick. Their young players coming through. Well, they're not too bad either. I think we can see why Rennes were winning things. Gregory Mallet at Chelsea is just absolutely insane. But every player there is virtually elite. It is a real high level of players coming through. And then you've got the players that started the game at 16 like Krupi, who are just ridiculous. So this is a very strong France side. And it's no wonder that English football is not quite competing with it. If we go back to the home screen though, that is our little review of a 10-year bookmark in this head coach save. Of course, it was tinged with frustration at Bayern this year. What we are going to do as our plan for the rest of this save is we're going to go through on Wednesday to the start of the new season, because I just want to see if there's any sign of a resolution, whether the director of football, when this window opens, goes and signs, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 players. I also think the first game of the season is the German Super Cup, which I may play just to get a final trophy and a final game in before resigning, albeit it could be that we lose to Bayer Leverkusen again and I retire on a sour note. However, I feel like I want to have one more go at winning a trophy and one more game. Of course, if the summer's good, if the director of football issue resolves itself, then we'll crack on. If not, we're going to resign, we're going to retire. We'll end the save, we'll switch over to the alternate head coach, where we left Japan and we had those job offers from Bournemouth and from Willem too. One that I had to take for realism, one that I wanted to take for enjoyment. And I just want to go through a sort of weird career path where we go through a few different nations and have a bit of fun in leagues we wouldn't normally manage. So that's what we're going to pick up with if we don't get the good summer. And that will then start next Monday on the channel, which will be good fun as well. So hopefully you're looking forward to all of that. If you enjoyed this 10-year bookmark, please do put a thumbs up on it. Let me know what you thought caused the huge difference between this and the Southend save, where we didn't really have many clubs moving 2 divisions, let alone tons that were moving 3. The English football pyramid's definitely taken a bit more of a weird turn in this save. And of course, combined with the chaos we've had here at Bayern Munich, does make for a bit of an interesting one. What about the rise of Antwerp with tycoon ownership as well? There's so much to talk about, but we're going to be back on Wednesday in hope more than expectation to see if this save will be viable going into a new year. If it's not, and we do start the new save next week with the alternate head coach, don't worry, because we are going to continue to find out what's causing this. We're going to get to the bottom of this director of football glitch if it's still present. We're going to do an experiment over a few Sundays. So that might be interesting for those of you who are baffled and perplexed by what's been going on this year. For now though, if you want to stay up to date with everything on the channel, including a return for the Southend save again tomorrow, then please do subscribe and turn that notification bell on. There's links to that playlist up in the eye above, as well as some of our guides for FM24, the Twitch channel and the football podcast, where we're in the midst of loads of playoff predictions. Come and get involved in those in the comments, give us your score predictions and have a bit of fun. But for now, thank you very much for watching, for joining me for the 10-year bookmark, and I'll see you here again on Wednesday, whether we find out if this save can be continued.